2023 has been a pretty amazing year for athletics so far. We have seen many amazing performances in track and field. The professional contingent is just starting to emerge. However, in my opinion, the most dramatic events have happened on the marathon circuit this season. In this year's London Marathon, we saw Kelvin Kiptum throw down a historic time with a performance of 2 hours, 1 minute, and 25 seconds, now landing him only 16 seconds behind Kipchoge's world record. Also in the same race, we saw Sifan Hassan somehow pull out a very rare victory in her marathon performance, as this was not just her debut, but she stopped to stretch, she again had to turn back to get her water bottle, and yet she somehow came away with the victory. And also going back to this year's Boston Marathon, we saw Kipchoge lose, which is a very rare occurrence as well. However, there's also another name in this year's London Marathon that I wanted to touch on, and that is Kenenisa Bekele from Ethiopia, the athlete whom many consider to be the greatest distance runner of all time. Now, Bekele has had quite the transition to the marathon racing circuit over the previous 7 or 8 years. Throughout his various marathon races, he has had so many ups and downs that it's quite difficult to keep up with. At one point, he was only 2 seconds away from Kipchoge's world record, running a time of 2 hours, 1 minute, and 41 seconds at the 2019 Berlin Marathon. However, since that time, his performances haven't quite reached their true potential, and in this year's London Marathon, we also saw something quite unfortunate. For this year's London race, Bekele just wasn't quite able to finish, citing various racing difficulties, and his legs just more or less gave out. This picture right here pretty much tells the story of Kenenisa Bekele in the marathon recently. He's had multiple DNFs, he just hasn't reached that potential that we all know he's capable of. However, there's actually more to this year's London Marathon than meets the eye, because not only did he run up with the leaders for much of this race, he was actually right with the leaders for more than half of this race, which, given that he is also 40 years of age, is nothing short of miraculous. This is actually very impressive, and if you look at various pictures of Bekele in this year's London Marathon, you can see that he looks very fit. We've seen various races over the previous 4 or 5 years, where physically speaking, Bekele just did not look as fit. He even looked a few pounds overweight in some of these races, and you compare that to his 2019 Berlin Marathon, when he ran his incredible sub 2:02, you can see that he was slightly more fit and at race weight. Now, to get more specific as to exactly what happened in this year's London Marathon, for the first 5,000 meters, Bekele was running up with the leaders, splitting a time of 14 minutes and 31 seconds, and through 10K he was at 14:44, 15K he ran a 14:37, and through the 20-kilometer mark, he again ran a very fast 5,000, running a time of 14:41. Through the halfway point, Bekele hit a time of 1 hour, 1 minute, and 46 seconds, which places him well under 2 hours and 4 minutes for the marathon. However, just after 25 kilometers, which he split a time of 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 27 seconds, Bekele sadly dropped out just after halfway and again put a DNF next to his name for this year's London Marathon. This was actually the first race in history where 2 athletes who have already broken 2 hours and 2 minutes were competing together. And as we have mentioned before in the past, this race also had 4 of the 5 fastest marathon athletes of all time. However, for the second fastest athlete coming into this race, Bekele just was not able to pull through. This seems to be only a more and more common occurrence for Bekele over the past few seasons. Now, for Bekele's current situation, he is in a very difficult spot. Yes, he's 40 years of age, but given that he's run so fast and clearly wants to run that fast again, it is going to be a monumental task to run under 2 hours and 2 minutes after becoming 40 years old. If we look back to a similar athlete, Haile Gebrselassie, we can see that he only competed until he was 42, and even then he still wasn't running nearly as fast as he was in the past. And given that these two have so much overlap and such similar racing backgrounds, I think that Bekele is reaching the point where retirement, unfortunately, might be right on his horizon. After this year's London Marathon, he did express that he was looking to race in the marathon in the future. And while he might run 1 or 2 more marathons, I think that Bekele's career is not only beyond the twilight years, I think it's reaching its end, and this is difficult to say. However, given that he has been competing on the international scene and winning since 2001, Bekele's career is already one of the longest and most successful campaigns of any athlete to ever run, so he certainly deserves all of the praise in the world. However, seeing him fall short in the marathon over and over again is a difficult thing to witness. Personally, I think Bekele is easily one of the greatest distance runners to ever compete, and his title as the GOAT is certainly warranted in many people's minds. However, regardless of what you think about Bekele against many of the greatest distance runners to ever compete, one thing is certain: he has some of the greatest personal records and some of the fastest times in any event, so he certainly deserves high praise when it comes to personal records and global championship racing. However, at 40 years of age, again falling short in this year's London Marathon, retirement might be the right option moving forward. Now, what's also possible is that he could have run slightly slower through the opening half, maybe not hold on to the leaders up front, and he still potentially could have finished in, say, 2 hours and 5 minutes. This is very much a possibility. However, at the end of the day, he did not do that. In fact, if we look at his previous few years, he hasn't gotten anywhere close to 2 hours, 1 minute, and 41 seconds. And while he still has the potential to run fast, it's only getting more and more challenging to finish a race as fast as he wants to. So I think that with all of this information and context in mind, Bekele's career right now is certainly at a crossroads. And given all this info, I would love to know what you all think on the matter. Do you think Bekele should retire? Do you think Bekele has a few more good marathons in his body? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, until next time.